What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Trout Wrangler Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Garrity. Um, we got a guest with us today. It is currently Friday, March 14th at 3:02 p.m. Um, I'll let you introduce yourself real quick, David.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's David, and I run the page Very Good Fly Fishing on social media, YouTube, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure if anyone in here is on TikTok or Instagram, you have seen one of David's videos pop across your screen.
One of them out there at some point. Who
Oh,
knows?
yeah. Dude, yeah, before I even followed you, they would pop up all over my For You page,
Really?
everything. I was like, yo, this dude, I forget which one was the first one, but it was hysterical.
Oh my
But
gosh.
give a little background quick here. At what age did you start fly fishing, or at what age did you start fishing, and when did you just decide to dive headfirst into fly fishing if you didn't do it right off the rip?
Yeah, man. No, so fishing, I feel like has kind of always been, maybe not always been a part of my life, but I used to love doing it when I was a little kid. A few of my buddies and stuff, we'd like run to the park or something like that on our bikes and bring some fishing rods. I was never any good at it. Like I didn't know what was going on. I had a few more friends who were like dialed when we were like 8 for some for some reason. They were really dialed in on like our local fisheries and all that sort of stuff. But then I kind of lost touch with fishing, and I did a lot of stuff in the outdoors growing up. In the Adirondacks, I went to a camp up there basically every summer. My parents would send us up there. We would literally work the camp and stuff. So I've always loved exploring the outdoors and being outside. It wasn't until not like probably not joking like COVID time when I actually for the first time picked up a fly rod. I'm pretty openly new about being or openly new to fly fishing, and kind of the page was started basically to kind of document my experience, my growth in the sport and all that, and then it kind of turned into something else pretty much a year after it. I'm super blessed to have everything, the life that I live, all that sort of stuff, and kind of fishing full time. But yeah, it was really around COVID when me and my dad actually went and bought this boat. I was like, I want to buy a boat and I want to go fishing again. He was like, what the heck? Because at the time I was working as a producer and a DP for a production company here in Rochester. So a lot of film, a lot of commercial, and you might be able to see some of that on my page when you guys watch the videos and anything like that. There's a little bit of background in film and knowing how to use camera and editing and all that sort of stuff, which has helped a ton, which has been really, really cool to have that experience. But yeah, we got a boat basically and went up to the Adirondacks and sucked so bad at fishing. Look, we bought all the gear we could find. I'm buying like bait casters. I picked up a fly rod because I was like, I don't know what this is, to like chuck it in the thing. I'd seen a couple of my buddies fly fish before and whatnot, and so I was like, yeah, it's a method. And yeah, no, I was super unsuccessful that entire trip. Purchased a boat for it, and then came back and was like, well, now I'm gonna devote my life to fishing because I want to catch a fish. Like at the time, I was barely catching bluegill and stuff. Like I really had
We've
no
all
idea what I was
been there.
doing. I know, and I ended up coming back, and one of my friends, Jake, he put me on to some of the salmon runs that we have up here in the north, like the northeast. The Great Lakes have a huge kind of scene of migratory fish, the trout, the steelhead, and all that sort of stuff. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. He's like, yeah, get some waders, bring a rod. I was like, okay. I was like, what do I buy? So I go to like Sportsman's, buy this like cheapo rod. The first fish I hooked into was a king salmon, and it was like full grown male king salmon. Like this thing fought the heck out of me. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this forever. Like this is so sick.
Oh yeah.
So that was incredible. It was on an egg sucking leech, a little purple egg sucking leech for some reason. At the time, I had no idea why it would eat anything that looked like this little fluff ball on a hook.
Yeah.
But I was just stoked that it did, and yeah, that kind of hooked me. And since then, I've been really, I mean, I jumped headfirst on the scene, right? Like you kind of see on some of my pages and all that sort of stuff. Uh, Working with some really cool people, some cool companies, and all that, and I really tried to excel and try to be the best that I possibly can in terms of an angler. Constantly learning stuff from people, and that's what kind of the fun thing about it is. I meet people like you. I meet people in the fly tying scene and the fishing scene and all that sort of stuff that just make me a better angler, and that's kind of what the whole page is dedicated to doing, is documenting all that.
Yeah, I think, dude, like what you said during COVID, dude, I feel like that is when so many people were like, you know
It
what, like
exploded.
it's really the only thing that
Yeah.
we can do outside, and it
Right.
exploded, dude. Like I bass fished before I fly fished.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was on a college fishing team,
Oh,
and
sick.
I kind of jumped into fly fishing because I live on. If I know you came fly fishing up here, if I don't know if you
Hmm.
went through Charlotte, dude.
I honestly, I'll be honest. I know the one area that we went to, which was in like the Linville area,
Oh yeah.
and we came from Virginia. And
Okay.
my sense of direction is horrendous. As an outdoorsman, that's something that makes me so nervous. But
Dude, same here.
I'm pretty sure we were in and around the area because we drove through a few cities in North Carolina. It was like kind of a blur when we were doing it, but beautiful area,
Oh yeah.
beautiful area.
I'm living on a less sketchy side of Charlotte now, but
Okay.
before I was living over there, I was living on a pretty sketchy side of Charlotte,
Heck yeah.
and somebody broke into my truck and stole all my bait
No.
casters and all
Oh,
sorts of stuff after a Thursday nighter. The only
yeah.
rods that weren't in my truck were my fly rods. And I was
And
like,
it's
well,
you're like, all right, guess we're
here
fly
we are.
fishing.
And it's like I
Dude, that's
fly
sick.
fished before, but
Right.
it's like I was fully like just engulfed in bass fishing, and
Right.
my boat started breaking down and stuff, and I was starting to get out of it, and
Yeah.
I started jumping into fly fishing down in Florida,
Dude,
dude, fly fishing for tarpon
yeah,
in
no. Is that
Mosquito
where you're at right
Lagoon.
now?
Nah, I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I'm still in
Oh, that's
Charlotte.
so sick.
Yeah,
Dude,
dude, I
yeah, and
love it.
I bet you that's such a fun way to get like funneled right into the sport. Like you were forced
Oh yeah,
to fly fish. But
dude.
like honestly, oh, go ahead.
There was a guy who helped me out a lot with it. Check him out. He does a lot of good fly fishing stuff. I'll send you over like his Facebook and all that stuff. His name's
Okay.
John Grasta. He
All
ties
right.
these giant flies, and he uses a spey rod to
Oh
catch
yeah.
tarpon and stuff like that. And it's
That's
unbelievable. He
awesome.
taught me how to fly fish for tarpon and snook and all that stuff.
Oh man.
But it's
Dude,
like
that's a blast.
unbelievable, unbelievable stuff. And
That's so sick.
he's real good into that. Like he ties the craziest flies I've ever seen.
Right.
But
It's kind of like that like Pyramid Lake type stuff where they're throwing the two-handers for bobbers, like got like an
oh, it's
indicator.
insane. And they're like
So
it's
cool.
they're literally building out their lines and
Oh yeah.
with like literally 7, 8 sections of it.
Right.
And he's like, I got this down to a science now.
Yeah. No, those
It's
dudes dial it in.
wild.
That's crazy.
But how many states have you fished? And which ones have been
Oh
your favorite?
gosh. We have, like the middle states are a little tougher, and mainly when I was starting out last year, I was like, trout. I want to find trout. I want to zoom to the west, and I want to find like cutthroats and like just big western fish.
Yeah.
And so we didn't do a ton of fishing through like these center states. Like we're started in New York, we're in Rochester, and then we kind of scooted the top end of the states until we got more into like the South Dakota, Western, all that sort of stuff. Um, man, I don't know that being that there's like so many different species, like in Kansas, where we were able to kind of like come back through last year, like crappie and bluegill, like massive bass in some of these
Oh
areas.
yeah.
Bass fishing has been super, super fun. I I don't know if I know the number of states because we've hit so many states like multiple times. Um, it's definitely not all of them yet. I think that's something that I'd love to rack up to is like eventually get to like I don't know, I don't even know if there's a scene of like saltwater fishing in like Hawaii or something like that, but
Oh,
like that
dude,
would be
they got a
so sick.
crazy bonefish and fishery out there.
Oh, really?
Dude,
See, that's
yeah,
the stuff that
there's
like I haven't dove into yet, so I don't know that, but that would be a freaking dream. Have
dude,
you
it's
have you had the opportunity to do that?
I had the opportunity to go and try to bonefish. I'd say that try big time. We went to
Oh, yeah.
Aruba, and
Okay,
dude, you
gotcha.
probably saw the video. I ended up drinking more beer than sitting there and fly fishing, dude. The
Oh,
winds
you're
were so bad. Dude, it was horrible. I'm sitting
That's
there
not a
with an
bad switch
8
up.
weight. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
Dude, but I had an 8 weight and the wind was just coming straight down the gut, and
Right.
I'm getting a Clouser minnow right back in my
Oh yeah.
face every single
Hooking on the
time. And I'm
hat,
like,
hooking on the shirt.
oh yeah. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, I'm going back up for lunch. I'm gonna eat a quick
Yeah.
sandwich and put like 6 beers in my backpack
Right. Well, yeah,
and
you
just
got to
wait
stay
around.
hydrated. Right.
Exactly.
That's so
Always.
sick.
Have you been out
Yeah,
of the country yet to fly fish?
yes, we did a trip to Spain this last year, and it
Ooh.
wasn't solely to fly fish. I just happen to know David Pike Fly from social media, and if you've seen this guy's page, you know that he's catching like toothy critter, like he's going after carp, and like catfish and pike and muskie and all those huge in Europe.
Oh
I was
yeah.
talking to him and he's like, man, I don't even try to target trout anymore. He's like, it's an accident if a trout hits my. He's like, because the fish that he's fishing in these fisheries are just freaking, they're all trophies, like just huge pike, huge carp. He took me to a spot, and it's actually one of the next videos that I kind of have coming out on the Time Eye series for YouTube and stuff. But uh, basically went carp fishing with David Pike Fly, and he took me to this place that looked like it looked. I don't even know how to describe. It looked like the Maldives or something like that. Like it was this tropical oasis in the center of the Spain foothills, like gorgeous, like teal water, beautiful. And he's like, all right, you're gonna have to be really quiet. Here's a 6-weight glass rod. We're gonna go find some carp. And I was like, all right, sick. That sounds dope. And we like pull up on these feeding carp in this like little U-shaped valley type thing. And I mean, we covered miles that day, like good mileage. I'm in like Chacos. The only thing I brought on vacation. I've got my Chacos on. We're hiking, dude. We were huffing it. This dude's a freaking juggernaut when it comes to like looking for fish. Beautiful spot, and he got me onto a fish. I mean, he's like, we're gonna get close. We've got like 14-foot leaders, like super lightweight stuff, and it's so delicate over there. Like, there's a couple times that I spooked the fish off the beds that they were feeding in, and I was like, dang it. I was like, I'm not gonna see a fish today, all right, or am I? And I was like, here we go. And he was like, there's one right there. He's like, it's feeding right in front of you. And like, I was like, okay, we have these like balance leeches on, and I just like drop it in. I mean, you have to get close enough that you're not casting fly line. You're just rolling leader.
You're right.
And so like I rolled it out there, and the fish just came up and smacked it, and I was like, donk. Like I just like set it. Like I was like, I don't know what I have on. I'm not losing this fish. And it was so sick on the glass rods. Like we had a 6-weight glass rod or something. Huge fish. I can send you a picture at some point or something like that, and it'll also be in this next video and stuff.
Yeah,
But that was
I
nuts.
can drop it in here during an edit if you send it to me.
Gotcha.
But
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you one of his photos. But then I've also done a bunch of Canada stuff with my friends, the SoFly podcast, which is one of the other
okay.
podcasts that I frequent. And those guys took me pike fishing, Northern Territories or Northern Ontario, and that was nuts too. But that's pretty much the closest I've been to like outside the country. I've got a Mexico trip planned soon,
That'll be
and
fun.
so yeah, that'll be sick. I think that's the next thing in the books that I'm stoked for. I did one saltwater trip last year, and I've been like chomping at the bit to get back down to the salt.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I want it so bad.
What are you going
It is
after when
so
you go
sick.
down to Mexico?
So it's like migration season for tarpon for sure, because it's
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
like roundish April. Is when I'm hoping to hop on this trip. And then I think the area that we're going to is like more like Tulum. It's Ascension Bay is the
Yeah,
launch.
we went to Cancun one year and
Okay,
that's where everybody said to go and fly fish was out
because it's
there
like
in
every
Tulum.
species. Yeah, you're just hitting everything.
Oh
Like
yeah.
everything is sitting in those
It's
waters. So it's
nuts.
like, oh, we're gonna do bonefish this day. We do jacks. Like, so it's like kind of can do everything, which would be like
Yeah,
really
dude, you
really
can hit
sick
them
too.
all at once.
Yeah. So
Like
that's
we
the
went to Cancun and there's one guide in all
yeah.
Cancun and he's booked up like years and years in advance. And
Right.
it's like you're sitting there, you got 8,000, you got so many people that go to Cancun, and the
Right.
guy like you'll call him up and he'll be like, "Hey, like just to let you know, like the only way we can get you on is if there's a cancellation." And he's like,
Yeah.
"If you really want to do like if you're serious about it and want to actually catch fish and you're not just like going for a tourist trip, he's like, go to
Right.
Tulum or bring
Yeah.
your own stuff and just hop around the
Like
bridges.
DIY it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so sick. That's the one thing that was like cool about Florida. The area that we went to, um, we caught more fish in the canals than I think we did out on our like on the skiff with a guide. And it was a tough time of the year too. So for like the big game tarpon, like that was definitely tough. But the like teenagers that were in the canal and stuff, those suckers were hitting everything. So
Oh
like
yeah.
that was freaking sweet. We rented like I think it was like 8 or 9 kayaks or something like that. And like we were with a film crew, so like we went down there. It's like filming all this stuff. So we got like 3 guys on boats with cameras and drones and all that sort of stuff, and then the rest
Oh
of
yeah.
us are all fishing. And my first tarpon that I caught was like up under this bridge. I actually stood in my kayak, and it was like on a above water kayak, so like so sketchy to stand in.
Oh yeah.
But I stood up in it and I cast underneath the thing, and like the sickest thing was just watching the fish come up and roll. And it was like a 20 plus inch or something like that. So it's
That's
like
pretty good tarpon.
it's big for a trout, but pretty small for a tarpon.
Yeah.
But
It's
it was kind
it's
of
still
sick.
juvenile. It's big for
Yeah.
juvenile.
Yes. Yeah. And so like I hit that, and then I ended up like falling down into the kayak and like plopping back down. The fish ran behind me, so I'm fighting the fish with
Oh,
like the rod behind me.
dude.
There's actually a picture of that too, which was actually kind of like it was so sick. I'm like just doing this with my rod, and the fish is just like just blasting around the kayak, which was that was sick. But it really made me want to get into a big one.
Were you down there
And
towards like Miami?
we were in Sanibel, I believe
Sanibel
is
Island?
what it's called, Sanibel Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were down there because one of the guys we were with, he's got family down there. He grew up in that area, so he's like, I got to take you guys down here.
Oh
It was
yeah.
so sick. But we went during a time of year. Plus, it was like I think the days that we were fishing overlap with like big full moon, so we were just like just like kind of
Can't
sitting
beat
there
it.
and like yeah, and so yeah, the fishing on the skiff was a little bit tough. We did see huge fish. Like I mean, some of the tarpon we're seeing in the flats, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do when I like hook into
Oh
that.
yeah. Dude,
Like
they
just
just
insane.
look
Just
like
point.
prehistoric creatures.
Yeah, exactly. Just point your rod
Point and
at
let
it
it
and
jump.
pray. Yeah, just pray. Pray it
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
pop the hook on the first the jump out of it. But yeah, saltwater stuff I think is like the next one of the next big adventures I'd love to
Oh yeah.
tackle a little bit more.
I think you already
I,
touched on. Oh my bad. Sorry about
oh,
that.
you're
Keep
good.
going.
No, you're fine. I'm done.
All right, my bad. I thought you said
No,
salt
you're
does.
fine.
I hate when I do that. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, dude,
But
you're totally good. Honestly, I'm banking on latency considering I've got like Bluetooth
dude,
headphones.
these are my Xbox headphones from
Yeah, there
when
you
I
go.
was I was
Double mic it.
dude, yeah, I put this thing up here and
Yeah,
I almost like wrapped it up, dude, because it's like I don't play Xbox anymore.
right.
It's
That's
like
awesome.
I'm like, all
It
right, I'm
looks
just gonna use
official though.
it. It
It
does
looks
kind of, dude. I look like I'm calling
game
the
day
offense.
NFL. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
my offensive coordinator.
Yeah, put the
Call,
folder over your mouth.
yeah,
Oh my
like
gosh.
dude. But you touched on it a little bit here. But while you're here in North Carolina, like what towns and counties, what towns or counties do you remember? I know you said
Yeah,
Linville.
Linville was like where we kind of like posted up. There's a
Oh
bunch of
yeah.
camp spots, and obviously like when we travel and we're in the van kind of full time, we're looking for those dispersed spots.
Uh huh.
We hit it in like, oh gosh, I want to say February, maybe early March last year is when we were in North Carolina,
Uh huh.
and definitely a dead season for camping for the locals, and so it's kind of great for
Oh yeah.
us. We were able to kind of like bounce around for a few spots. The spots in North Carolina and like Linville and those mountain regions are no joke, dude.
Oh
Like
no.
I think worse overlanding than we've ever had to do in this rig. I mean, like T's getting out, my wife is getting out of the van every couple minutes with our walkie-talkies, and she's spotting me on a turn or like up some crazy mountain. There's a couple times we were like at a pitch that was so insane that I just had to reverse down. Like it's
Oh,
crazy. But
dude.
like we did go exploring the Linville Wilderness, which is amazing. Definitely a daunting thing when you're walking up to some of the signs on the trailheads, and it's like this is the one of the most I think is like the most called rescue area in the country or something
Yeah.
like that. Like it's
Yep.
the like wherever we were going in the gorge, was crazy. It took us an hour to get down, took us an hour to get back up, and it's just pure like 1,000-foot drop with switchbacks. Like it
Yeah,
was nuts,
dude,
but
it
it was
is insane.
beautiful. It
Yeah,
is insane, but it was
it's
gorgeous.
worth going down there, dude, but it is
Yeah.
sketchy. Very
I know. It
sketchy.
was like, and it was finding a good place to do it without like having to hike too far from the camp and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like we went into areas that like not a lot of people usually go into. I didn't see a lot of signs of life when I was down there. It's a trek.
Oh
And
yeah.
I did it in waders, which was psychotic. I feel like I should have just packed my waders in or something like that. Like going down the first time, I'm going off like over these roots and these sopping wet down trees and like felts, just like
Yeah.
trying to die.
Oh,
But no, it ended up being so sick, so rewarding. Great fish down there. I mean, some of the
dude.
prettier wild fish that I've seen in this area. I know there's a few people who are like, man, I wouldn't even go down there. It's just stocked fish or it's not a great fishery. And I was
Dude.
like, I don't care. I just want to catch some fish. So I
Yeah,
went down
exactly.
and I caught some gorgeous fish. I was like, this
Oh
is
yeah.
amazing. It was a great day of fishing. Just running some like indicator rigs or something like that. And up north, like that's really what we're used to is just tons and tons of bobber rigs. A lot of nymphing for the streams that we have around here. Not a ton of good hopper dropper stuff. Definitely there's game for some streamer stuff, but
Uh-huh.
just kind of went back to kind of what I know and all that sort of stuff, and finding some pretty little areas and catching some really nice little fish, which was
Dude,
I loved North Carolina when we were down there. It was
what's
really cool.
crazy now, if you came back up here, half of those streams are completely different. Dude, like
Really?
after the
Oh well,
hurricane,
yeah. After the hurricanes,
dude,
goodness
after the
gracious.
hurricane, I went to the Davidson River a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Completely different fishery from the last time I was there.
man, I know, and
And
that all was like that was crazy. Like
oh yeah.
watching all that and just like feeling. I mean, seeing kind of what most of the like the residents went through, and then like thinking about like those like you're saying like the fisheries and all that sort of stuff, like just completely washed, like just completely changed.
Like I've
It was
been
so crazy.
trying to get up there to do some blue lining because it's like,
Yeah,
every once in a while it's like I like to go and delayed harvest fish, but
yeah,
it's like I love the blue line.
yeah. No,
Dude, the
that's so
only
fun.
thing for the longest time we had to fish was delayed harvest stuff because
Wow,
all the blue line streams are destroyed. Some of them are
wow.
starting to come back, but they were bad for a
Yeah,
while. Some of them still are.
goodness
But
gracious.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
Linville's
so
cool. Did you
crazy.
bring the drift boat down there into the gorge?
No, no,
No.
I did not. No, I was definitely in like quite of a pinch. It was like a very bottleneck section of the river where there was a lot of shallows.
Uh huh.
So it felt blue liney in the center section, or wherever we were. It felt blue liney, and then all of a sudden you'd hit a huge pool, and you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to take the Cocopellis down there because I was like, man, this would be. There's a couple fun rapids down there, and I really love running the whitewater stuff. So I was like, man, I would love to pack it down here, but the hour hike in,
Be
just for
brutal.
like, yeah, and it was like only a couple hours a day because it's middle of winter, like it was
Yeah.
February. So I was like, I don't know, we got to get out of here before 5 because it's pitch black by like 5:30.
Yeah.
So it was like quite an interesting thing, but it's also like I'm still working out of the van, like all that sort of. So it's like splitting the days up and doing those and figuring out what like is the most that I can do when we have a big hike in or something. But no, I thought about it. There was a section that I rode because we carry a motorcycle with us when we're on full time on the road. So popped the bike off and I went out of the Linville wilderness and drove like I think like 40 minutes down the road, like back or whatever. And there I saw more open water
Yeah.
past that, and but it was a lot of like private land. So I was like, I don't want to mess. I don't want to mess with
Dude,
private land and all
they
that sort of
take
stuff.
that
So
so serious up here too.
for sure,
They're like super
yeah,
serious to the point where it's like, you always have those kids that's like, we all did it when we were younger. Where it's like
right,
they find that loophole where they just access it while staying in
yeah,
the water, and then somebody calls
right,
the game warden and they're like, well, they can technically do it. I'm like, dude, I
yeah.
don't even care to do that anymore. I'm like, just
I know
let
it's
them
like
be them.
yeah, you're like I don't even want to deal with this at this point. No,
Yeah.
there was a lot of that. We use Onyx and Trout routes to basically like find our plots. What I do is I'll go on Trout routes, and now they're owned by the same company, so it kind of works out great. What I was doing before is I would look on Trout routes and be like, okay, this is like this gives me a general information for that, and then I'd go and double check it on Onyx just to make sure I was gonna get
Oh,
like shot or something.
dude, that at
But
those two apps have saved my ass
oh yeah,
multiple times. Dude,
100%. Yeah,
multiple
they've
times.
been really great, and that's kind of how we like find our areas too. I've talked about it on a few other podcasts and stuff, but like we're able to cross reference like dispersed camping with great fishing, and so it kind of just ends up being something where we're able to find camp spots that put us right next to like beautiful gold ribbon waters or something like that,
Oh yeah.
and that makes it like pretty great when we're traveling and stuff. North Carolina though, I feel like had a lot of great like class A waters.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a lot of blue line stuff, and like natural brookies and all that sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, no, I definitely want to come back to North Carolina fish again for sure.
Dude, those brookies are beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah, no, dude,
Oh yeah.
it's crazy because we love them here. Like I love brookies. One of my favorite species of trout, like and cutthroat, and then getting it like browns. We just see a lot, so you kind of desensitized to how pretty they are sometimes. But some of the natural ones, like we came from like the Shenandoah National Forest
Oh
up in
yeah.
that area. There's like a bunch of blue line streams, so there's some really tricky fishing, and like whipped out the butter stick and like
I
really
love a butter
lightweight
stick.
fishing and stuff. Oh my gosh, so much fun. But the fish are so beautiful. Then you go out to the west and you fish kind of the same scenarios, blue lining type stuff. It's definitely like mountain runoff in the Rockies or something like that in Colorado. And people are all like trash fish, like boo on like brookies, because it's like it's crazy. Like they're so invasive in that area, and it's because like they introduced them out there. But like it's kind of wild, the different mentalities the second you get to the other side of the country.
Oh yeah.
What people think about brookies, and like us in the East, we love them. they're,
Oh
they're
yeah.
so
It's
cool.
crazy.
They're supposed to be our native fish, and we kind of like there's plenty of spots we've wiped them out, so when you do get to see them, you're like, this amazing, this is
Oh
beautiful.
yeah.
This is
It's like,
so cool.
thank you.
Yeah, I know, seriously, and they're fun fish to fish for. I feel like my second year fly fishing, like I'd gone into it and I was like, oh my gosh, like these things love dries. Like this is so cool. You throw an Elker's caddis on a big river in the Adirondacks, and yeah, they'll come up, and like the cool thing finding out that they'll test it first, so they'll come up and whack it with their tail, and then if it cools
Uh-huh.
down in the current, then they'll come hit it again. So you might get like a subsurface eat on a caddis or something like that.
Dude, it's
Um,
crazy.
so tricky, and like learning all those things, it's just like really fun nuances to the like the different types of trout and how they'll fight, how they eat, how like all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But brookies have always kind of fascinated me in that sense, just because they're just a really cool fish.
Dude, like
And
Spencer
so
Durant has a really good podcast on like the anatomy of a trout from
yeah,
Ventures. Dude, and
okay,
that like even tying flies, like listening to that podcast completely like changed how I tie flies. Like you know how you
oh
kind of
that's
got some
sick.
of those older guys that are like you got to be so like
Yeah,
detailed with it.
yep,
So a lot of those fish, if you look at a trout from the front, its eyes are looking outward instead of like
right,
forward like us. And
yeah,
it's like they
exactly,
catch that fly for like a second and they
yeah,
don't even see the color that it is. And they all they see is essentially an outline and just kind of like a shadow is what Spencer was saying. So it's like I'll tie flies all sorts of different colors. And then that's how I'll fish for them. Like after hearing that, oh shoot,
you still have me?
the
Sorry about that.
yeah, I got
It
it. It's all good,
reconnected to
dude.
something.
There we
All right,
go.
I was at the eyes are on both sides of the head.
Yeah, so they look outward and they only catch a fly drifting in front of their face for like it was some crazy like half a second.
Right.
So he was saying he's like everybody looks at their flies and they're like, is this detailed enough for them to see it and eat it? And he was
Right.
like, it doesn't even matter half the time. Like, yeah, it's nice to have it look good. It's like, I'll
Yeah.
still tie flies like that just because I want it to look good. And I
Right.
don't want some old codger in my comments like that thing looks like hell. And so,
Yeah.
but like, that, it's like, it's still going to catch fish either way.
Sure.
Like,
No,
it,
and that's one of the biggest things I've found with starting like that new series that I've got, the Fly Tying Friday stuff, because I am bad, dude. Like
I
there
am
there are
too.
some flies that like come out good, and I'm like, whoa, like that's sick. I would buy this at a shop. But there are some that come out, and I'm like, oh my god, like this should never be seen, and it also I shouldn't have brought it to life. Like it has to be in pain or something. And so like, it's been really cool to see that the other skills that I'm developing, whether it's my cast, my drift, managing line, like all these things that I'm developing around the sport of fly fishing, the fly is definitely like, it's very helpful,
Oh
but
yeah.
it can sometimes be like one of the lesser important things that it looks so perfect in order to catch a fish, because if that was the case, none of my flies would catch fish.
Oh yeah. Same
And
here.
so it's a really cool thing to kind of see how that all works as I'm like starting to pick apart each portion of fly fishing. And I think that it's fun that I went after like presentation was my first thing that I tried to dial in when I was like getting good at fly fishing.
Right.
And that was one of the things that actually started to catch me fish. And then I'm realizing all these other things that I'm lacking in, like being able to shoot line kind of far in order to like, I don't know. I made a video on this where I'm talking basically the idea that being able to cast far is not something that is going to be helpful every single
Right.
time that you go fishing, but knowing how to cast far is what's going to help you manage line in small streams. And when you take it in the big scale and you scale it down to a small stream, your abilities are going to be a little bit more direct and a little bit more pinpointed. And so those were some of the things that I like really worked on and dialed in before I got too much into the nitty gritty of fly tying, or even really most of the flies that I picked up, I was like, I think this looks nice. It's like to catch the fisherman, not the fish type thing.
Right.
I was like, I think this is a pretty fly. And so then I would just toss that fly. And 90% of the time, if my float was right, and the angle that I was like kind of approaching the fish, it didn't see me, I was able to sneak up on it, then like those are the factors that kind of contributed to me landing the fish in my net
Right.
type of thing.
I think
Um,
the biggest thing that people sleep on, like you were saying,
yeah,
it's not a fly. It's not how a fly looks. It's not color. It is your
correct.
presentation and your drift.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
No,
how.
100%. And that's what crushes it.
Oh
That
yeah.
usually is what like gets you the fish. Like you're saying, like they
Exactly.
only have a split second to see that. And if that split second was spent on one extra thread wrap, or if you're going to mend your line just a couple seconds before it gets to where that fish was feeding, like probably choose the mend the line portion,
Right.
throw the
Exactly.
fly, and then they're like, all right, I'm gonna hit that because a juicy bug just kind of came in front of my face, which is pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I love that.
Which uh, which states are in your top three right now?
Okay, so no, South Carolina, sorry, on the western side, South Dakota. I think that's like my top one. I really, really love South Dakota. There was a section of the Black Hills that surprised me with a few little tailwater sections that we were going around. Number one, it's the first time that I was ever in the mentality of thinking about mountain lions, because I forgot that I had to worry about that. Because here in the East, we're not too
Yeah.
worried about wildlife. It's like we've got wildlife, but it's like black bears, or like they're scared of you. Like it's not a super big deal. But out there, it's grizzlies and mountain lions, and they're so much worse than
Oh yeah.
anything that you're gonna find this way. Unless you like run into a moose in Vermont or something like that, then
Yeah.
yeah, be scared. But no, like Black Hills, gorgeous, some beautiful trout and some tailwaters up there. I really love that. Obviously Montana's on the list. We fished the Yellowstone just this last year when we were filming for trout routes in Yokota. We were making our way 2,300 miles just to go to the Yokota fly shop. That's where we ended up. We fished with the guys from Yokota and stuff. Um, and that was really cool. The Montana day, we took the NRS raft out, me and Aldo, and him and I just like we did a DIY float 10 miles of the Yellowstone, and we caught two fish. It's a tricky river. It's a really tricky river. So like having Aldo with multiple years of experience, and then myself who's fairly new, but like I'm doing it every day. Like this is my job. I fish every single day. So like I feel like I'm getting to the point where like I know a little bit about fishing different waters and not just your home waters type thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, that was cool. We caught a beautiful brown. Um, I caught I think I caught a nice male, and then Aldo caught a female. Probably an I want to say like 30 minutes before we finished our float. So it was like kind of a whole day of like picking whitefish out of the
Oh yeah.
river. And then we hit the two trout. And that was like, honestly, I was like, I feel great about that. Like, that's so great. Knowing that even the shops that were up there, we went to the Yellowstone Angler, and they were like, good luck. honestly, because it's been like hard fishing at this
Oh
point. And
yeah.
we were like, okay, that's good to hear. Like, you never want to hear that from a shop, but they're going to be honest with you. So they were like, no, like, it hasn't been fishing great. But you're also in a crazy season to come try to float the river by yourself without a guide. We were like, that's a good point. So the fishing in Montana, fantastic. And then I think, oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like oddly enough, there's a split between Colorado and New York,
Uh-huh.
mainly because New York is my home water, if I can even do that.
Yeah,
New York
split
is
it.
my home waters, and the migratory fish up here and the browns that we find from the Great Lakes are stupid. Like it actually is a pretty like coveted fishery, and so like I think that's a really cool thing about New York is like once a year you get this like really consolidated amount of time where you like are there's humongous fish in our rivers, like
Oh
the
yeah.
salmon that come in, the browns, and even the steelhead. It's a crazy fishery. And out west, they don't really get those lake run fish. Like you're not going to get that in Colorado because they're nowhere near the Great Lakes, and it's a landlocked state. So they're going to get huge fish, and that's what's amazing is like you've got a really wide range of fisheries, and pretty much every stream you pass over on like a bridge that you're passing over, you're going to look down, you'll probably see 30 trout just sitting underneath it. So that has been unbelievable. But yeah, I think it's got to be a tie between New York and Colorado. I really love both fisheries. Um, yeah,
You know what's crazy to look at is how we on the East Coast we're hell bent on going west.
yeah,
And then when on the West Coast, they're hell bent on coming here for like the
for
salmon
sure,
run, and that's
a
just like
hundred
super
percent.
cool.
I know it's
Um,
either that or like Alaska that the guys are going to, or like I know a bunch of dudes who are like in the Nashville section. They're caught in the middle, and
yeah.
most of the time they'll be like, I want to come up to the east because of the fishery, and it's like once a year where they can plan this one big trip, and they're probably guaranteed to find a fish.
Oh yeah.
It can be tricky for sure. Like once you get into like now, when the steelhead are still kind of around, we've still got some bigger browns, but the salmon have left, and they're not really like really pushing like they were kind of in the fall. Um, but it is cool. Have you ever gotten the opportunity to like come up to do Great Lake stuff?
So I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Um, I lived in Massachusetts for almost the first half of
Okay.
my life.
Oh heck yeah.
Um, and I did like a little bit of trout fishing stuff up there in like New Hampshire, but it's
Yeah.
like it was essentially with my uncle, and
Yeah.
he'd essentially hook like a trout. I was young. He'd
Yeah.
hook like a trout, and he'd hand me the fly rod. And he's just like, rip the
Right.
line in.
Yeah.
But
And
like,
you're like, what? You're trying to reel? And he's like,
yeah,
no, pull the
no, no, no,
line in.
relax, just pull the line.
Yeah. It's
But
not a big
this year,
deal.
I'm actually trying to like put together a whole thing where it's like New England and then up to New York to
Oh heck
try
yeah.
and do some of that stuff.
Dude, that'd be so sick. And if you do something like that, let me know because I'd love to meet up, show you some of the stomping grounds. I got a few spots and all that sort of stuff. It's not really like there's really secret areas around here. There's a few big portions where the fish are running in, and you just kind of go there and try your luck, which is fun. Like the Salmon River, and we've got like Oak Orchard and a few other things like that.
You do the cat skills,
Um,
any?
yes, I've done it once. I wasn't successful, but I've got a friend who. Uh oh.
Did it go? I got you. Oh,
Hold on one second. What just happened? It just switched to my other camera. Hold on one second.
oh, you're good.
That would be so awful for consistency. One sec. It just said the battery's exhausted. That sucks.
Oh, it's all good. It just said it's gonna go on a new track, so I'll just put the two together. No worries.
Sorry, dude. Hold on one
Nah, don't
second.
worry. You're all good, man.
Let me get this.
This is probably one of the least serious podcasts of like of all time. I started it like this year,
Yeah.
and it's like I got like a couple sponsors, but it's like nothing too serious yet.
Right.
So it's like it's like stuff happens. It's all good.
I feel that.
But I
Maybe
just kind
we'll.
of like that kind of preach originality. It's like nobody really has to change for me.
Right. Why don't we just keep rolling? I feel
I'm good
bad
with
for
that.
holding things up. It looks like the
Nah.
battery just died, which is so stupid. It's plugged
Oh,
in.
you're good. Don't worry about it, dude.
um.
You can keep it
Well,
running.
the first half of it's going to be Sony quality, and the second half's going to be. Oh, you see my fly tying stuff now?
Oh yeah. Dude, all mine's back here, dude. Like my girlfriend made me like get a caddy for it all. She's like, I'm sick of this shit being
Yeah.
all over my table.
Right. That's what you got to do at that point. Do you still have the audio from this? Is that all right?
Yeah, I still
Okay.
have it.
Weird. Yeah, no, my fly tying stuff, because we live in a van, has been consolidated to this toolbox next to me. So I've got everything that I need pretty much in it, which ends up being the worst ever, because like I'm constantly, for every episode, I'm like going and buying 30 new things. I got 20 more hooks. And like I was like, it's every single thing with the outdoor stuff, like with boats. Like when I bought a boat, like all the old dudes would come up to me and they're like, yeah, well, good luck buying everything else you're gonna have to buy for the boat. You're gonna have to keep buying stuff all the time. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I've got to buy 30 more things for it's the same thing with fly tying. I always think I'm the exception. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have to buy 60 more spools of stuff. And now I've got like, there's a pile next to it. There's the fully packed toolbox, and then there's a pile of materials
Dude, that's how my table looked like. I had some kid from here uh message me on TikTok the other day. He's like,
Yeah,
"Hey man," he's like, "I'm getting into fly fishing." He's like, "Can you tie me up some flies?" I was like, "Yeah, I
yeah,
can do that." And oh my gosh, dude, it was like the most complex stuff, and had to go and
yeah.
buy stuff. I'm like, well, I was like, there's another 100 things that I
Yeah,
got in my
100%.
caddy.
Right, yeah, and you're like, even if like you get to the point too where I feel like I haven't gotten to the point where like I'm not selling flies by any means to people. I'm just kind of just like doing the giveaways and all that sort of stuff, because I think it's
Yeah,
funny, like if I tie a terrible fly and someone's like, I want that, I'm like, okay, you can have it, it's
yeah,
awful. And like they
dude,
love it, like, and so like getting them the fly and all that sort of stuff, just because even if they're like, I think I can fish this, and then some people will fish it and they're like, I caught on it, I'm like, yeah, that's nuts, I don't I don't know how you did that.
dude. It's
um
like I I sometimes feel bad like selling people flies because it's
yeah,
like some of this stuff. It's like they want it, and I'm like, listen, like it might like I'll have to watch like a few videos. The
yeah,
first ones might not be good. They're like, oh yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
yeah,
And I send it to them, and they're like, I caught a fish on this. I'm like,
yeah.
damn, that thing looked like shit.
Yeah, no, that's the fun thing, is like learning those things, but then also like I think you are good enough to be selling your flies, which is helpful. There are some times where I'm like, I cannot guarantee that this is this is gonna even look like it should be on
Dude,
a hook.
like
So I
this
feel
one,
that.
I almost threw this in the box. I was like, nah, dude, that looks horrible. It's so bad,
Oh yeah, no, honestly,
dude.
that's those are the things too, like where you get like the fundamental ones where I'm like, for some reason, like I can tie up a crazy changer or something like that, and I'm like, wait, this worked. And then I go to do like a stone fly, and I'm like, what the heck happened? I was like, there's not even
Dude,
that much material on this.
dude, I'll tie like a Pat's rubber leg sometimes, and I will legitimately like this should be secondhand nature at this
Right.
point, and I'll look at it, I'll be like, God, it looks like I drank like 7 beers before I tied this
And
thing.
you're like,
Like,
I did drink 7 beers before I tried this. You're like, that was
dude,
probably it.
there's
I feel that.
sometimes at night I'll be on like TikTok live,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there. And it's like, you only got like 5 people in there. I got flagged on
Right.
TikTok live the other night because
Oh, really?
I was drinking a beer,
Oh,
sitting
see,
here
that's what
tying
I thought.
flies.
I was like, can they? Is that a rule? And then I guess it is. That's
Yeah,
that's
they
good to
flagged it.
know.
They're like, your live will not be like recommended.
Oh
Then
wow.
it's like you go and you end it and then start it back up. The flag will go right away.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, I wonder if
but
you can do that, because I feel like that's like when you are just hanging and like having a beer or two or something like that, or like I don't know, when we were in Brunswick with the SoFly pot. See my cat back there?
yeah, I was
She's
like,
she's
whoa.
she's supposed to be in this van, so that's crazy that she's out there. Weird. The door is open, but I did not see her leave, so that's crazy. I'm a bad pet parent.
Dude, my
No,
dog's asleep on my
yeah,
couch right now.
that's awesome. No, but I feel like it was like we were sitting around and we had like a few margaritas because our friend Aldo used to be like bartender, and like I think he still is a bartender for certain occasions and stuff. He's like big in the restaurant industry in Toronto. And the flies we were tying were wacky, but they caught us hundreds of pike. It was so sick. Cause I feel like some flies, it's like, I mean, you get big ugly streamers and like you kind of can't go wrong, which is nice. So if there's any people out there trying to get in fly tying, just do it. You'll probably be
Yeah,
fine. It'll
that's
catch
what I tell
something.
everybody. I'm like, just dive into it, dude.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, you'll
just
be all
dive
right.
right in. I was
You'll
like, you
prick your
can't
finger
be.
every once in a while, but you'll be all right.
Oh, dude, I did it so bad the other day. One of my buddies ordered feathered treble hooks from me, and I was
My
sitting there
gosh.
doing like a thread wrap,
Yeah.
and I was doing a thread wrap and came around and
Yeah.
nicked it, and my finger was bleeding
It's just
everywhere,
gushing. Oh my
just
gosh.
gushing blood. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this
Not
was one
great.
somebody told me to tie on TikTok Live. Look at
Yeah.
that. It's supposed to be a dang dragonfly. It's like I didn't have any wing material.
Yeah. Just braid that sucker.
I was like, all right. I was like, this is gonna be it. I was
That's
like,
awesome. Hey,
parachute yarn.
and you know what? That would freaking do it. Honestly, like I feel like the trout in we were in Oregon this last spring. We were like testing some rods with Redington, and there was a couple times where like I got like a just a normal like MFC hopper or something like that. I got like stuck in a tree, and I'm like, of course I'm yanking these things because I'm like I don't want to retie my fly on. I get in like the really lazy mode after a few hours on the river, but I tore this thing up so bad. Like this fly looked terrible. Those browns though were smacking it. Like the browns and the Deschutes,
Uh
they
huh.
they didn't care. Like it looked like something was on the surface and they were eating on the surface, so they were just gonna hit it. And like I think that's one of the fun things about the West is like you can throw salmon flies, you can throw giant hoppers, like giant chubby Chernobyls or something like that,
Yeah.
and it ends up being productive, which is crazy. But yeah, again, I don't know. All these stories prove our point, which is just like just start if you're gonna start fly tying.
Oh yeah. 100%. You'll have stories for days.
Yeah,
But
100%.
you just released that pike video up north. How sketchy was that float plane flight?
Oh, dude. So it wasn't the way in was not bad. The way in was not bad at all. It was actually so gorgeous. It was all still water. Up in the north, it's once you get into the air, you kind of see that it's really flat. Like you get into northern Ontario and it doesn't really go like mountain high, which is something I was expecting. I was like, I feel like this is going to go like the Adirondacks do. Like you get more north and it's probably going to elevation's going to raise at some point. It doesn't. It goes up a little bit, but then you get to like the Arctic water table and it shifts. So it now instead of flowing down, it flows up, which is kind of crazy. But there's just tons of lakes. Like there's so many pooled lakes that are just up and around. So those float planes are obviously one of the best ways to get around. And so that specific trip was the first time I had ever been on a float plane in my entire life. And so I wasn't nervous about it until he started the engine because there was so much going on the trip. Like like myself, like I mentioned before, I have a production background. So I was filming. It's technically like on the clock filming with this trip. And so I'm like logistics, we're getting shots, we're making sure we're getting interviews, we're talking to the owner of the flight, like all this stuff. And my brain's going 1,000 miles a minute, but then I sit down in the front seat because they were like, dude, sit in the front, sit in the front. And I was like, okay. So I sit in the front, dude starts the engine, and I'm like, there's like a half inch of metal between us and the outside, and we're about to be hundreds of feet up in the air. I was like, this
Oh.
is crazy. And he like brings us to one side of the lake, feels like you're on a boat, and then he just slowly pulls up on the throttle, and then you're just boop, like you're just up in the air, but you're not quite as high as a commercial plane, of course. Um, and so it is really cool. You can just everything that like you get excited about seeing when you get on a plane, like is like you're like, oh, I get to see like what my town looks like that type of stuff. You get to
Yeah.
see the lay of the land, but then you quickly go out of view of being able to see that because you're above the clouds. But the whole flight, you're able to see like you could pinpoint a moose if it was down in a clearing. Like you could see a bear if it was down a clearing. And so like Aldo was like, dude, look out for that type of stuff. You'll see that, which I think was really, really cool. But the first flight, so smooth. Like water was glass. So landing and taking off, nothing. The flight out though was psychotic. Like, it was probably one of the craziest things I've experienced yet. And like in regular planes, I'm not a huge fan of turbulence. But this flight was the pilot was a brilliant pilot. He's this like French Canadian dude who's like so like dialed. Like you can tell like this dude's like been doing it for his entire life. So like there was never any doubt about the pilot, but there were a couple patches of turbulence that you hit where you're just like, doo, woof, and like you feel the plane, like the whole plane drop, and I'm like grabbing the bottom of the seat, and he keeps looking at me. He's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, mm-hmm. Like I'm trying to like, be like this tough fly fisherman dude who just came back from a lodge, like a week at a lodge or an outpost, and I was like, I can't do it. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so scared.
Give me the Dramamine.
Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. Seriously, I was like, someone hit me over the head or something. But there was a couple times, like even when we took off, he had to pull so hard on the throttle that my stomach felt like it was going into my thighs. Like I was like, oh wow. Like that was nuts. Like the actually feeling true G-force for the first time was literally like nothing I've ever experienced before. And one of the scariest things ever, because you're just hurtling in this giant box of metal. But like I said, incredibly experienced pilot. The dudes behind me had been on 100 float plane trips, and they were like, that wasn't even close to the worst one we've ever been on. I was like, no way. That's insane.
Like, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, I was like, that made me think my life was in danger. I was like, I know it isn't, but like I was like, whoa, wow. Like it was crazy. So like the flight out, crazy. Flight in, nothing. I honestly, I'm glad I got the footage that I got on the flight in, because there's no way I was filming on the way out. Like it was crazy. There was white caps on the lake when we were leaving.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild. So that was nuts. It was both. I got both ends of the spectrum. I feel like I experienced both types of float plane trips, and now I'm prepared for the next one. So there's always a silver lining.
Yeah, there's always a good positive with every
right.
Not so much a negative, but
yeah, exactly. I know it was cool because we just got done with that trip, so I was like, I can't be too upset, but that was crazy.
Oh yeah, what are your go-to cameras and film accessories you always bring with you out there?
Yeah, whoa, sorry. Just keep an eye on my cat. I'll restart for you. Yeah, my go-to accessories, I usually shoot most of my like day-to-day content on either my phone or a Sony. I use the Sony A7. Love that camera because it's not too expensive. You're not getting like the full range price of a Alpha series Sony, but you are getting the quality in the sensor. So like some of the videos that I shoot, people can't really tell the difference between that and my like high quality gear, which I run a cinema rig from Blackmagic. I have a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro. It's a mouthful. But that's what I shot the Wild Wild East on, and it's what I shot a majority of the footage for the last Pike trip on. Okay. So that's my kind of go-to rig for the high quality trips that I'm doing. If I'm doing a sponsored thing or I'm shooting a film for myself for the page or something like that, then I will go to the cinema gear. But I love, the Sony stuff has been native for me. I love it for photos. That's what the A7C is for. It's like photos and quick social media cuts and all that sort of stuff. But then the Blackmagic, obviously more built out, huge sensor. It's on the list for Netflix camera usage and all that sort of stuff. So it's a high quality camera. Pretty crazy gear to be hauling around in the water, but that's what insurance is for.
Oh yeah. If you drop it, you get a brand new one, essentially.
That's the hope. I haven't done it yet, so I'm hoping my adjuster isn't watching right now. That'd be wacky.
I just got a hand-me-down Nikon D90.
Oh, nice.
And I've been toying around with that a little bit. I would like a stabilizer here in a little bit because it's like I was sitting there shooting stuff and I could see like myself shaking. I got horrible shaky hands. I need a stabilizer.
Yeah, any of the stuff that can fix that is definitely like there's lenses with stabilization and then there's cameras with stabilization. My Sony has both, but my Blackmagic has none. But because of the sensor, that handheld cinematic look actually rolls really nicely. So I will say there's time and place for handshake, and it's actually a few things that like directors that I've worked with, they've been like, let's do it handheld. So we take it off the gimbal, we take it off the huge like Steadicam or something like that, and I'll just hold it in my hands or with a big Flycam vest. And the handheld look, it does good things. If you're trying to get a dry fly eat like a trout or something like that, and you're super zoomed, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, that's
but
kind of what I was trying to do.
right, yeah, you get any of those types of things where it's like, okay, I actually need one. Then it's like just get a tripod or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Tripods
what I have.
are
I have a nice tripod. My
yeah,
mom
that
got that
all
for me
that
for
stuff
Christmas.
that works really well. But I also like if there's something that like I know my camera can't do, just I just pick up my phone and it's like it
Yeah.
is a crazy camera that you have in
Oh
your
yeah,
pocket
dude, I
at all
still got
times.
like a iPhone 12.
Yeah.
Still good. I'm
Oh yeah.
like, dang. It might
No.
be even older than a 12, honestly.
Yeah. Like a big censored camera or like a 4K camera is not ever gonna not be 4K. I know
Right.
there's some like different sensors where they're like really cropped or something like that, or they create the illusion of 4K basically by just like stretching the image. But I mean, iPhones, they're pretty true to the specs, so that
Oh yeah.
definitely helps. And if there's I know like when I was starting out with content stuff, I was like, I gotta get a GoPro, I gotta make sure that I have all like my drone and my drone license and all that sort of stuff. But I was like, honestly, 90% of the time I go, oh, I caught a fish, and I pull this out of my waders and I go like this, and I
That's what I
shove it
do.
into the dirt on the bank, and it falls in the river, and I pick it back like. So it's like I don't know, my phone gets beat the crap out of it, dude.
Yeah, dude. I
Um,
used to have a case on this, like
yeah,
completely destroyed.
no use. I got like the OtterBox one, and it's sitting in the dash somewhere because it just got ripped up, like just
Oh yeah.
destroyed. But
What
yeah,
Oh, my bad. Keep going.
no, you're good.
What
I was
was
just
your
gonna finish the
first
sentence.
big like industry sponsor?
My first big sponsor, I feel like it was right around the same time. There was Backcountry Skins, which is like a wet wading company in Canada. Those guys are awesome. And Reddington. So like
Okay.
Reddington and Backcountry Skins were like my first two people that ever like reached out to me, and I was like, whoa, people are reaching out to me. That's insane. But yeah, definitely those two are kind of like the first ones to kind of come into the DMs and work some deals and all that sort of stuff, which was really cool. I was taking a bunch of photos and then like posting them, and I think I had reached out to Reddington at one point because I made a video on a Reddington rod. I think it's one of the first YouTube videos I made. Where it's like I'm talking through beginner gear, where it's like stuff that's pretty accessible to get at any store if it's near you, if you don't have fly shops. Like I don't know about you, but up here in New York, we don't have that many fly shops. Like
Yeah, we
unless it's
don't
on a big
either.
river or it's in the Adirondacks or something like that. Like we've got Sportsman's and we used to have an Orvis, but it just shut down.
Oh,
So like when you're thinking about people like trying to get into a sport and accessibility and all that sort of stuff, then like kind of what's the most accessible, what's sold pretty much everywhere. That's what that video was kind of about, and it was one of the first rods that I had actually went and spent some money on was a Reddington Vice.
okay.
So I did a quick little video on that, and they were like, "Hey, we saw the video, and love to figure out working with you." So they were on pretty early, like probably within the first like 1,000 followers that I had, which is crazy. Like if you think about it, like in terms of sponsorships and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
dude, that's nuts.
Um, they kind of saw the potential, and I was able to have a call with their marketing manager, chat with them about my experience, my background, and all that sort of stuff. And they're like, okay, like I think we're gonna get good content from this guy at some point, and if not already now, type of thing. And it's just kind of worked out. They've been one of the tried and true sponsors of Very Fly Fishing, and it's been amazing to do any type of work with them because they're a really cool crew of a bunch of like guys like me who are like everybody should be able to grab a rod from somewhere and should be able to go to their local river and try fly fishing. And Reddington does that. They make waders pretty accessible. They make rods and reels at a pretty affordable price, which I think is really cool. So if you're just getting into the sport, or I've had a few pros who like I'll hand a blank rod to or something like that, or I'll hand them like a Reddington rod, and they'll cast it for a few minutes. And they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a Reddington." They'll look at it and they're like, no way. Like sometimes you get in the mentality where like I gotta get a Sage, I've got to get like a Douglas rod, or like some of the more expensive,
Right.
the Winstons, the Hardys, all that sort of stuff. But they cast one of those rods and they're like, hey, you know what? This is pretty good. And for
Yeah.
the price point and stuff, like you really can't go too wrong with the Reddington stuff. So, anyways, yeah, the Reddington Backcountry Skins definitely huge supporters of the page early on. and definitely opened a lot of doors for the brand to kind of be what it is now, which is me full-time fishing and filmmaking and telling stories and traveling the country and all that sort of stuff.
That's pretty sweet, dude. Yeah,
Yeah,
Reddington. I've been I'm about to switch all my stuff over to LLB and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
It's
You
like,
do you like their rods?
dude,
I've only gotten to cast
I
once.
love them.
That's
Dude,
awesome.
like I have one. It's like I got all sorts of different stuff right now. Like I was a
Yeah,
big fan of I was a big fan of like the White River, the Bass Pro Shops.
yeah,
What's it called? The Dogwood Canyon.
yeah, yeah.
Big fan of that because it's like you break it, you bring it back, and they'll just let you swap it out.
Yeah, no, they're
And
cool about stuff with that too.
I've broken so many of them, and I've just brought them right back and grabbed another one because it's like I'll take like people who haven't been fly fishing before. I'll take them fishing, and like they'll get hung in a tree, and they'll sit there like this. I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, hold on. And by the
and
time I say the first hold
yeah,
on comes out of my mouth,
yeah,
you hear. I'm
yeah.
like,
And you're like,
oh,
okay, well, no more tip on that rod.
yep.
Yeah, no,
But
I know the pain for sure. That is one of the things. If I may plug Reddington one more time, but
do it
their
always.
their return and like their repair shop and all that sort of stuff has been so freaking quick.
Yeah,
With me, it's like I'll send like 3 or 4 rods in because like I'll wait a year after I've broken a bunch of rods,
yeah.
and then I'll send them in and they're right back to my doorstep within like a week or two, which is crazy because
I still,
they got to track
I
us down.
oh yeah.
Yeah, which goes crazy, but they've been good about that.
I still got like a broken classic trout 3 weight somewhere that I've just
Dude,
been like waiting to go and send it back in.
yeah, man, lifetime warranty. You can't go wrong. And the classic trouts, I feel like they're such a fun freaking rod.
They are.
Like I've got a few buddies who like that's their first rod and then they kind of just stop there. They're like, honestly, like I don't want to get a different rod. Like
It's like,
for the 4 weight, 5 weight range, like it's a really fun rod for those trout situations.
dude, it's like that TikTok video. It's like fantastic. Give me 15 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'll take 100 of those, please.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
that was my very first like nice rod. Was
Yeah,
a classic
it's a
trout.
great rod.
It's
It's
an
a
awesome
fantastic
rod
rod.
for the money.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but what moment, if there was one, made you completely decide that you were going to do fly fishing full time?
I think it was that's a good question. I might have to think about it for a second. Yeah, there was a few times where I was like, I don't know, it might have been when I had first started posting to the page because I had started on Instagram and then I made a TikTok as well, but I was like kind of consistently posting. What I was doing is I was working a full-time job. And I know you mentioned you also do
Yep,
this. So it's like
I do.
I was working a full-time job. I was working a 9 to 5 as a production manager, like basically a head of studio for a production company here in Rochester. So that's grueling work. Like there's a lot to be done. I'm also an editor and a colorist, so like I'm doing the post production, the storyboarding for clients, the pitching, the everything. And so I was doing that, and then at 5 a.m. every morning, I would take a video that I recorded the night before when I went fishing, and I would post it to social media, and I would do it really quickly in the morning. So like 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. I'm editing a video at my desk in the dark, and I would post it and then get ready for the day, head into work, do a full day of production, and then come back, go to the river, and then repeat the process the next day. Um, and so I really wanted to try stuff because I was in the marketing realm of things. Like that's kind of what my job entailed, a lot of hats. And so we would also do like marketing pitches for clients and all that stuff. But there were ideas that clients would say no to that I was like, this would work though. Like this would work really well. And so what I was doing is I would just take the ideas that I knew would work on the clients and they said no to it. So I'll just try it on my page, see if it works. And then if it works, at least I know it worked. And so that was kind of like what I was doing in the beginning of the page and testing stuff out. And then after like maybe a week or two, I had one video hit 100,000 views and I was like, whoa, what's going on? I was like, why does anyone care about what I'm posting? But I had one idea and I was like, I'm just going to post this. And I was really calculated at first where I'm like, I'm going to do 3 seconds of this shot and a couple of things. And I'm going to make sure there's this many fish in it. And you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah,
really like crazy die hard. But I was like, you know what was funny is that video was one of the videos that I didn't take too much time on. I was running late for work, and so I was like, oh, I gotta post something quick, and so I just whipped something together. It was the one thing that I didn't take that much time on, and it blew up like before lunch, and I was like, whoa, like okay, like this is a different type of strategy, whatever. I love the marketing side of things, and that's one of the things that is like a secondary passion for these things. I love also good content. Like I love like trying to figure out what people want to see, and then just being like, here, let me make that for you. Like that'd be cool if I could just make something that you actually want to watch, and there's no strings attached type of thing. So I think once I started to see like a response from people, I was like, I think I want to do this. And I think there was like a time where I like called my dad and I was like, listen, so I like have a good job, and like I'm sitting there with like my now wife in the car. We're like sitting there, and I was like, I think that I should try to do this like for a year. Like I should see if I can make
Yeah.
fly fishing like something that I can do for I don't know, full time. It's just because I loved it so much, and I was making this content and I was doing it, and I realized how easy it was to do this content and how much I was pulling my legs when I was in my actual job, which is kind of crazy. I mean, like I love the work, but it is like that traditional style of work where it's like kind of you just work in order to be able to play on the weekend for a
Yeah.
couple hours at a time type thing. And I just loved the fly fishing and the adventures and the things that I was getting able to or being able to do, but it was because I was being pushed to do it because I wanted to be able to post and update people and on this page and whatnot. Um, I think that was one of maybe the big moments where I was like, I called my dad. I was like, I think I want to try this for like a year. I want to see what happens. But that's also what kicked off purchasing a van. I sold my car, like one of my dream car, sold it for a van and built out a van. So now what I was doing is I had a 9 to 5. I was posting every morning at 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then I'd come home and work for 12 hours on construction on a van that I had no idea how to do, and I was just YouTubing the whole thing, basically, so we could spend a year out west or wherever and like kind of chasing where these companies wanted us to be, and working on these partnerships and partner and collaborative things with other fly fishermen and all that sort of stuff. And I just wanted to do it, just wanted to try it for a year and see what it did. And then it actually like all started to work, and I was like, no way, like this is so cool. I'm meeting really cool people, I'm doing everything that I love. I say that I'm working, but I like it doesn't feel like work. Like I'm just kind of doing everything that I wanted to do. I'm editing these videos that are really fun for me to make, and people respond well to them and they love them, and so then it's just like a win-win kind of all around. um but yeah, I'd say when I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can pinpoint the exact moment, but I feel like it was right when I had called my dad where I was like, I had this idea and I was like, I think that I could do this. Like, I think that this could be something that I could do. And he was like, yeah, go nuts. And I was like, okay. And I just did it. And like,
That's awesome.
and the big thing I think that was the big push is that in the moments leading up to that phone call, I was talking to T, my wife, and I was like, what if we just like got in a van and just traveled for a little bit? Like, what if we just did that? Like, I kind of slow down or stop what I'm doing right now with my job and we figure it out. And she was like, what I thought she was going to say is, that's insane. No. Um, and she looked at me and she was like, okay, yeah, sure. And I was like, wait, for real? And I was like, she was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And I was like, oh, okay, sick. Yeah. All right. And
Let's
so then
do
that's when
it.
yeah. And so like, I think now that I'm pinpointing, I think that might be the exact moment where I was like, I think I can do this. Like, I
Yeah.
think we can do it. So that
Yeah.
was really cool. And then like coming to the realization, like a year or so after, um, when more people started to like the page and more people started to follow along, and like so freaking grateful for everybody who's been doing that. But that's when it was like, really, it was like, this is real. Like, this is
Yeah.
really cool. Like, my job is fishing. And like people
It's like
ask me, oh, go ahead.
it's like, damn, I'm really out here right now.
I know, seriously, like I'm out here, and like when Taylor's relatives ask me like, what do you do for work? I'm like, I'm a fisherman. Like
Yeah,
I
I
fly
fly
fish
fish.
with my phone, and they're like, what? I'm like,
Like,
yeah, it's crazy what you can do as a full-time gig these days.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm super blessed. Like, honestly, it's a really cool thing to be able to experience, and I'm just blessed that everything's worked out to this point, that this is something that I'm able to do in this lifetime. So I think it's really cool.
Oh yeah, dude. That's like the dream for every kid that like does fly fishing and
Yeah,
stuff like that. It's
100%.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I
But
think it's cool to inspire people in the next generation as well. I mean, I won't dive too much into it, but that is the reason why I started my page, is because I just noticed there are some areas of fly fishing that are kind of aren't accessible for new people, like newcomers and all that sort of stuff. There was a guy who yelled at me when I was at the park one time because I had gone over to him, saw he had a fly rod, and I was like, can you help me? Like, I just realized I got a new fly rod and I don't know how to put the tippet onto my fly line, or the leader onto my fly line. I didn't know how to do that. And he was like, dude, get away from me. Like,
what an asshole.
he was so cruel. And I was like, man, I hope no one ever has to like experience that getting into the sport. Like, it's obviously not going to deter me. I wanted to catch a fish, but there could be somebody who that turns that attitude like
That
turns
turns them
someone
away.
away.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of one of the big missions, like starting the page, where I was like, no, like everybody should be able to freaking try this at some point. Like,
Yeah.
there's rules and stuff that people end up learning. They're like, oh, like no spot burning, and there's these like, no, don't high hole someone. Like, there's these rules that like come into the culture
Right.
of fly fishing, and people get really frustrated if you don't know them. But I don't know. I feel like that's like the joys of like being able to spend time in the outdoors. And for me, it was a huge stress relief from a giant corporate job type of thing.
Right.
I want other people to be able to experience that. Maybe like, even if their like situation doesn't allow them to do it like as like hardcore as I seem to do it, where I'm like constantly like, oh, I'm gonna run to the woods 100 miles. Like, even if they can just get out to their local spot and catch a fish every once in a while, like it like changed my mentality about living. Like, to be honest,
Oh
like
yeah.
it like just spending time in the outdoors and just sitting there every once in a while, you like zone off. Like, you're supposed to be looking at your indicator, but you're like, this is so cool. Like, this is such a cool thing to be able to
Yeah.
experience
Dude, it's like
on
that
this planet.
moment. It's like that moment where you're sitting there and you're like looking around. You're like, "Damn, I'm really alive right now."
Yeah, you're like, I am very conscious
Yeah.
right now. So like, yeah, no, I feel that, and that's a big thing, and I want other people to be able to like feel that. Like, it was really
Exactly.
cool for me, and it obviously it changed my life. So,
It,
yeah,
and I think that's why like I have my page. I do this is to like have some place where like other kids can come and
yeah,
say, I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn those unwritten rules of the river. I
yeah,
want to learn how to tie flies and stuff
yeah,
like that, and go, where can I buy the equipment? And it's like, you get the questions probably all the time too. And it's like, I love getting them. Is like a younger
yeah,
kid that's like, hey, I want to go and buy like a fly tying vise.
yeah,
Which one would you recommend?
yep,
I'm going to say like the Davidson River delayed harvest place. Like, what fly should I bring?
yeah,
And if kids are coming to like people like us asking about that, and not going and like getting discouraged by like something, or like they're be like, if they're
trying it on their own type of thing.
exactly,
Yeah,
and it's like they're not afraid to come to people like us, that's good. Like, it gives you kind of like
yeah,
a glimmer of hope
yeah,
for the next generation, you know.
yeah, 100%. And I think people who like have access to fly shops, like obviously go into a fly shop, go into your local fly shop, your local
Exactly.
guide or something like that, and ask them questions, because like they're gonna have way more dialed in answers than we would have, or something like that, if we fish
Exactly.
the river a couple times. But for the kids who like know we fish these specific areas a ton and there aren't fly shops to access, I love answering those questions. I love trying to get people like a rod that's really going to work for them, but it's going to last them a long time, or something like that, or
Right.
getting them into a good pair of sunglasses before they go and buy 30 pairs when they could have just bought one, or something like that. I think those are fun conversations, because we've been in their seat. We've been sitting there being like, I don't know if I've got $200 to spend on a rod. Which one should I get? And not really knowing, you kind of just have to shoot into the dark, and hope that the
Exactly.
one that you have is not going to snap the first fish you catch. But we've kind of been through that, which is really fun. And so like answering those questions, I love being able to chat fishing stuff. I love being able to chat camera gear, like all of those interests. And even like with the pages, people ask me a lot of time, like, how do I start a page? And I'm like, same thing with fly tying. Just grab your
Just
phone and
do
go fishing.
it.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
fishing. Post some videos. What the heck? Just go nuts. Like, it's fun, and it's fun to be able to document where you are in whatever stage of life that you're in. And I think with social media, that is there's a lot of negatives, but there's a really cool positive in being able to document yourself as a human. progressing through life and learning new things and experiencing it, showing it to other people, experiencing it with other people, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there are cool things, and I'm glad people come to us and want to chat about them.
Yeah, and that's I think one of those things I do always tell them. I was like, you know, the people like if they're going up to like I'll always plug like especially in Western North Carolina right now where some of those
Yeah,
shops are still trying to gather up from Helene and stuff like that.
yeah,
Somebody's going up somewhere. I said, stop in Headwaters, stop
yeah,
in Brookings Anglers and Cashiers,
yep,
and go in, buy stuff, talk to the guys. It's like none of them will bite you. I mean,
yeah,
they're always wanting to talk.
yeah,
It's like if
exactly.
they're not on the river, they want to be talking about fishing and
Yeah,
go and spend
exactly.
some money there.
Yeah,
And that's always my first thing. Go
for
to a
sure.
local shop,
Yeah, they're
support
gonna know.
local.
They're
Oh
gonna know
yeah.
for sure. Which
Out
is
of uh out of all your fly time Fridays, which one's been your favorite?
oh man, honestly, so okay, so I might have two. One of them
Okay.
was I was surprised at how well the streamer came out for the pike video that I had done. Honestly, I posted a video and like a couple of weeks ago it like blew up. So I'm getting tons of comments and like people are like, yeah, this happens to me all the time. But I tied one of the worst streamers I've ever seen in my life. Like the thing looked psychotic. Um, and so when I was actually able to nail down like how to get a good head on like a streamer to push enough water, but at the same time still get that nice teardrop silhouette, I think that was cool. Like that was a really fun moment. I think though this last week's the one that I just posted this morning, which is with She Ties Flies.
Uh-huh.
Um, hers her flies are psychotic, like in
Oh,
the best way
they're
possible.
unbelievable.
Like I don't know how someone's tying art like that. Like, but I want to be able to do it. And so like I tried one of her patterns, which was the simplest one on the page. It was a copper john, and I think being able to get into the nitty gritty and like feel like I kind of know what I'm doing when I look at a fly. Like I think that's a cool step to hit. And I know a lot of guys have hit that years ago, but kind of experiencing it now, like as an adult, and I like look at a fly and I go, okay, I think that's what they did. I think this is where they used the resin. I think like that type of
Yeah.
stuff. I think being able to recognize that and then be able to pick apart a fly's recipe by kind of just looking at it has been a cool thing. But I definitely felt that that combined with my ability to kind of be a little bit more polished with the flies, like not like pounding on tons of wraps just because I don't
Yeah.
like it's like a secondhand thing, and I'm like, oh, I just gotta wrap it a ton of times. Now the fly's like a grub.
Yeah,
um,
I get carried away doing that
yeah,
sometimes.
I feel it, but I think this week was it was a cool one because I got to dive into obviously a page that is so built out. Like her flies are so amazing, but then also kind of like try it for myself and for it to not turn out that bad. Like it caught a fish on
Oh
this
yeah.
week's Fly Time Friday. So like heck yeah, like I absolutely love the fact that kind of worked out and stuff. But yeah, if I had to pick two of them, it's that one or those two, the pike fishing and the She Ties Flies episode. Um, but yeah, and maybe the one that I caught the giant fish. Like that was kind of dope.
That one was
The
pretty sweet too.
freaking
That thing was
brown
massive.
dude, that was a total accident. That was me like I said in the episode, like I'm fooling around with some of those ties, and honestly, that fly looked so bad, and I was like, who cares? I was like, I don't even need to
Yeah.
just fish in this. Like, so I just got out of the van and I see this like like when you're fishing saltwater and you're looking for those fin like ripples like
Yeah.
just under the
The
surface.
tails.
Yeah, I saw that and it looked like a tarpon that was coming up for air, and I was like,
Oof.
what's that? And then I like put my sunglasses on. I was like, holy crap, that's a giant brown. And all I did was put it across the river because he had like gone up this way and then he swam back to hold next to a log. And I was like, he saw me. Like, there's no way he didn't see me. I'm just standing here on the bank, but I didn't move. And so then I just slowly rolled the thing out because I've got tons of tree coverage. So like I got enough line out and I rolled it up and over across the river. And thankfully it sunk down just enough, hit the backside of the bend on the river, and then I watched him go like this. He went like this, and he just went poof, like he just exploded at it and
Smashed
hit
it.
it. And I was like, no way. I waited a second though. I was like, I'm not setting and pulling this out of its mouth. I waited a second until he started to go back down. Then I was like, and I set so
Gone.
hard. Yeah, I know exactly. And so he didn't fight super hard, but he was a lively fish. When I released him back, he like splashed me with water. I was like, that was crazy. I was like, that was so sick. And on a fly that I didn't even make an episode about. I had to make one after the fact because I was like, you guys want to see me see what I use? Like that was
Dude,
crazy.
I think a big thing with some of those bigger fish too, though, is how many big flies and like flies that those fish see. If they see something a little different,
Yeah.
they're gonna pound it,
Yeah.
and
And they're
it's
like,
just
what
like a
is
fight or flight kind of thing.
Yeah. Or they'll see something that's so rudimentary, like there was one time in the same river where I had done kind of the same situation. I saw this giant feeding brown. Of course, I'm on like 5x though because I'm like it's winter. I'm trying to throw tiny little things. I'm expecting smaller fish, but I had 5x and I was like, the only streamer I have is a woolly bugger, and I was like, I feel like I should throw this woolly bugger. There's like a teeny woolly bugger, like a micro one, and I had thrown a couple flies before that. Didn't care about the stonefly. Didn't care about the midge. Nothing like that. And then I throw this dumb little thing from Sportsman's Warehouse bin that I had like picked up and paid $1.99 for or whatever. Smashed it and snapped me off immediately, but smashed it. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's such a simple thought where I'm like trying to go for this hyper realistic, articulated stonefly, like something crazy. And no, he wanted the tried and true, the woolly bugger, which is it's
Damn.
sometimes you learn all this stuff and you're like, I know exactly what this fish wants, and then you're like, nope, he didn't want that, he wanted something completely different.
Yeah.
Keeps you on your toes.
I think we covered the next question already,
Oh,
but
sure. Yeah, we
the
can kind
other
of, I
one,
know we're no hour 20, so if you want to
dude. Hey, it's all
fly down
right.
some stuff, I know we've been chatting.
What uh, what platform was the hardest one to grow your audience on, dude? Because like I'm seeing it now. Instagram is so hard,
Really, I
and YouTube.
think, yeah, I think YouTube was a big thing for me. I think Instagram changes a lot. And then like what is nice about TikTok is it is pretty consistent, but the thing is if I'm posting stuff specifically for Instagram, like I'm making content for Instagram because that's my bigger following over there, it won't do as well on TikTok. But if I'm posting stuff that's specifically to TikTok, it'll crush there and then it'll hit a couple weeks later on Instagram because Instagram's getting everything like delayed,
Yeah,
which is wacky. But yeah, no, Instagram I feel like was one of the easier ones, but it's also because like I grew up with Instagram. Like I didn't really grow up with Facebook, and also so, like I'm 27, and so like I didn't grow up spending too much time on Facebook or in any of the other social medias. It was like Instagram was kind of like the thing that I
yeah,
was on the scene for. So like I had a little bit more confidence when it came to being like, oh, this might do well or this might suck, but it's content. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And so like I would post it there, and it's the ones that a lot of times it surprises you. I think the ones on TikTok's definitely surprised me the most because like something will just explode and you're like,
Yeah,
whoa, like what, why? Like I like analytics. I like the idea that I know why something happened, and when something happens on Instagram or on TikTok, I feel like I don't know. I'm just like,
yeah,
whatever, like this did really well all of a sudden, but it flops on Instagram or vice versa type of thing.
yeah.
YouTube though I think is the hardest to grow,
Oh yeah,
by like a long shot, and it's mainly because you have to have this like big flow of long form content kind of coming in, um, which for me, like I want my YouTube to be the really polished stuff, like the stuff that shows that I have 7 years of production background, show that I have like I'm able to create a film and I'm a professional photographer and filmmaker, like so it takes a little bit more time for me to kind of pump stuff out over there, um, but I'd love to get more consistent with it because it's such a cool reach area, but it's also like I spend most of my time flicking on a YouTube video.
oh
So
yeah.
I know
Same
most
here.
people are doing the same thing. And especially with the outdoor stuff, if you can't get to a trip right now, I'm going to watch 5 videos on the trip that I want to be on,
That's
until I can go on
exactly
there.
what I do.
Yeah. And so like I think that's what's cool about YouTube. It's just you got to build things out, and obviously I'm trying to stick to my guns and try to post really really high quality stuff for
See,
those channels.
that's my thing too. Is it's like I'm in the process right now of actually planning like a Western North Carolina thing,
Yep.
right? Like for the summer, and hit like a bunch of shops, a bunch of
Sure.
restaurants, and then get like a couple. There's a group out of Charlotte that I think is getting involved in it.
Yeah.
They usually do stuff like in the little urban streams around here, and we're just
Sure.
gonna go up and something. But
That's sick.
dude, like as crazy as all get out, dude. Wildfly, Scotty Finanger,
Yeah.
dude. he used to work out at the same gym as I did here in Charlotte. He went
That's
to
awesome.
high school like 5 minutes from me,
Yeah, he's
and
right
him
from
and
that
I
area.
used to sit and talk fishing while we're
Mhm.
working out. We'd hardly ever get our workout done because you're sitting there talking fishing.
Yeah,
And he would tell me how he's going up to like Wilson Creek and how he's trying to build up this YouTube. And it's
yeah,
like he literally had one of the most historic buildings in uh in Boone like rented out last week to
yep,
premiere a video. I was like,
yep.
damn, dude. I was like, how crazy is that?
It is cool. It's cool to see like that type of stuff, and then for you to like think about those people in the industry, because I know like when I posted the Wild Wild East and I like premiered it as like my first like big film that I kind of done with all these companies and gotten all this backing, and then we did the trip with a bunch of cinema cameras and stuff, and he commented and he was like, "Damn, dude, this is sick." I was like, "Yo," I was like, "That's
Yeah.
crazy, Scotty."
It's like,
Scotty,
damn.
like, yeah, exactly. And so,
It's like I've kind of
um,
made it a little bit.
I know, yeah, it's like it's a funny feeling, but like, he's such a cool guy, and hoping to connect with him at one of these points, and maybe do a little bit of filming or something like that. But
Oh yeah.
no, it's cool to see people like that from like the area that you're from. Like
Exactly.
I think that's what's really fun is like we've got a few bands from like Rochester, like you just like have this like home team type of vibe for that person, and like you see them around, and like I don't know if you've heard the band Joywave.
I've heard
They're
of them.
yeah, they're like they're in some of the FIFA games, I think.
Yeah.
Like
I
their
was gonna
music's
say, I think they
huge.
were in like FIFA 18.
Yeah, exactly. So like they're huge, but they're from Rochester, and like they come into the studio that I used to work at all the time. Test out
Are they
gear, we'd shoot some videos with like all it's and so
Are
like
they the one that it's like all I think about is you in late nights in the
oh
middle of June?
no, they're not.
No,
But they do
shoot.
have another big song on there.
I think it was in that
Oh,
same
dang.
game. I
Yeah,
forget which song it was though.
yeah, I can't think of it, but no, it's cool because then you see those guys do big things and you're like, man, that's so freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool to
And they're
see.
from your hometown, so like you get stoked about it and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I love that. And I mean again, like I love seeing Scotty. That dude pumps out content like it's nobody's business.
Dude, it's unreal. Did you see like the video that he released where he was like, "This is a whole day of like how I do everything." And he's like, "I
No,
wake up,
I didn't see
I
that.
go down." He's like, "I go down to this call." He's like, "I run a mile at like 6 a.m." He's like, "And then I go down to a coffee shop." And he's like, "Work out, run another mile." And he's like, "And then I
Yeah,
just edit all day, sit down at my." He goes through his entire day, and it was kind of cool to
yeah.
see.
Good gracious, yeah. The editing for some of those things, like and he's producing like pretty long videos too. Like I know when I was just making that 45-minute video, I've done it before, obviously, like that was my job, and so like it's just never been something that I've been so invested into because it's usually for a client. And so like doing it for myself, I'm sitting there and I'm like, no, this isn't right, that's not right, da, 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 da. And then I went to a studio to get my the studio that I used to work at, Tone Studios. I went there to do my voiceover, like professionally have it done, have it mixed and mastered by the guys that are there. So like there's all these details that go into it that I'm like, this dude's doing like a video drop every like couple of months, if not sooner than that.
Oh
And
yeah,
that took me 8 months while being someone who has been in the industry, like knowing how to edit and all that sort of stuff. So that was crazy. So like everything he puts out, I am in awe every time
oh
that
yeah.
he puts something out, because I'm like, dude, he's just absolutely burning it. Like he's just crushing it, which is really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, this is probably the second to last question.
Yeah, sure.
The last one's a cool one.
Okay.
I actually have a little running thing that I'm doing. You've probably seen it on a couple of the other podcasts.
Yeah, yeah.
But this one, what was the coolest or funniest story that you have from one of your fly fishing journeys?
Oh man, coolest or funniest stories. I would say, I mean, maybe I'll go around the coolest. It was funny in a way where I like it kind of stunk for some of the other people that were with us, but we went on the Reddington trip and we were testing out what is now the EDC, the Everyday Carry, and
Oh
the
yeah.
Miami Vice. And so we were testing those rods, and we were in Oregon, and we did a lake day. So we did like still water fishing. Um, and me and my buddy Aldo, like from SoFly Podcast, he's like, dude, this is gonna be so sick. Everybody's like so pumped. We're like, yeah, there's rainbows in here, like they're feeding all that sort of stuff. And with this specific area that we went to, there are channels underneath the lake that connect all of the major river systems in the
Oh
area.
my God.
Which is really crazy because like they give you a map and I didn't understand it, but they gave me the map and they're like, all right, here's where your little boat's going to go. They got like 9 motors on it. And they basically at one point had like drowned a forest. They had like flooded a forest and brought it underwater. Hold on. Am I losing you here?
Nah, you're
Oh,
good.
okay. It just says trying to reconnect. Okay. I think we're good. They had flooded a forest and basically tons of water, whatever. But now all these channels connect underneath the water to all these major river systems, which basically is like the Deschutes. It like kind of comes off of that, and like that's a big, actually ocean run river like in Oregon. So there are fish that are coming in there like kokanee and actual steelhead, like real steelhead, salt
Yeah,
steelhead.
like ocean run
Um,
steelhead.
yeah, and so like you've got these crazy different fish that are all converging on this one lake, and I didn't realize it until we were out there that like you actually have to get into a channel. So you have to find the channel on the map, and then you have to figure out geographically where that lands. And in the channel is where the fish are going to be sitting like they would in a river, but
Oh my God.
they're in a giant lake. And so it was really interesting. And what was me and Aldo plopped in the perfect spot, like the absolute perfect spot, because the entire day was kind of a grind for like the 5 or 6 other boats we had out with us. Like the rest of the Reddington team, like a bunch of people who fish full time, either that or they're professional. Like they do this for a living. All of us do. And so we're out there and we're kind of dialing stuff in, and like we're like balance leeches and any of this like the oh dang, like some of the midges and all that sort of stuff that you're going to see in those slow or the still water situations. And Aldo and I were just hammering trout. Like
Oh,
it was insane. We had found I think we accidentally found where the thing is, because some people were like, no, we were on a channel. But then they look at the map and they're like, oh, dang it, we were like 20 feet to the left of a channel. It's like really hard to find. But the reason why I knew we were dead set in the middle of this channel, we just kind of kept hitting this run all day because there was a current to it. So like you kind of take the boat and it's like still water current. And then it'd be still water again because there's a river running through it. And so it's like really interesting to try to find it. But I looked down and I'd seen kokanee, like a bunch of kokanee going up, and I'm like, oh, I've never seen those before. This is nuts. Like one of the most beautiful places in Oregon, and kokanee salmon are swimming underneath our boat, and then like we're seeing trout rise all over the place. But the crazy part about it is we would cast with these massive 12-foot leader rigs and 2 flies, and you're basically waiting for a fish to rise, because in slow water or still water they're going to rise, and if you cast right to that rise, they're 10 feet to the left and to the right by now. They're not going to see your
oh
fly.
my God.
So you wait for the second rise, and they're probably going in one direction and just doing this. And so like you watch the rise, second rise hits, then you try to predict where they're going to hit again, and hopefully your fly's sunk by then, and then all of a sudden bobber down and you're on
Oh,
fish. But Aldo and I were hammering fish, and we're like screaming in our boat because like when we fish, we're just freaking nuts. And I felt so bad because like there was a couple people who were like, I didn't catch anything, and I was like, what? I was like, we just had the craziest day of our lives, and they're like, yeah, we didn't see a single fish. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, I feel so bad. Like I don't know why we happen to be in the one spot where we were just slamming fish. But I think that was like both equally a funny story. I feel like I knew like some people were like, guys suck, like but it was also like just a really cool thing for us to be like, I think this is why we did it. Like that's one of the cool things about coming away from a fly fishing trip is you're like, this is why the fish was eating. And I didn't know that at the point, or why this was happening or whatever. But once I sat with it and dialed it in, looked at the geographic topo maps or something like that, this is why this was happening. And then you get even more stoked for the next one, because now you have this knowledge behind you that you can go do it again or do that tactic somewhere else, and you're going to be successful, and you're probably going to learn something else too.
oh
So
yeah.
I think that's like the cool and the funny from that portion of the trip.
Dude,
Which
that's
yeah,
unbelievable how they have that.
it's
Wow.
nuts. That fishery
That's
was
crazy to think
crazy.
about. You
Yeah,
ever seen
and
Finding Nemo where they got the big, it's like the
yeah,
turtles?
yeah,
Dude,
literally,
that's
like
got
it's
to
like
be what it's
shipping
like.
lanes. Yeah, like big current
Yeah.
lanes to the ocean and stuff. Yeah, it was kind of like that. But the one thing that was nuts is just off the dock. You're not allowed to fish off the dock at this area, but the bass that were sitting below the dock, dude, I saw one and I was like, that is an NFL regulation football. Like that is a huge bass.
That's the
Like,
Duke
and
right there.
yeah, and the guy was like, yeah, he's like, that dude just hangs out around here. He's got like 12 of those guys that are that big. And I'm like, what? I was like, and we're here for the trout? I was like, those
Yeah.
bass are psychotic. So they really, really cool freshwater fishery. But yeah, no, that was the cool and the funny, and also like you feel a little bit bad. You like
Oh
want
yeah.
everybody to be experiencing it like the same way you are, but then like you get on your 30th fish and everyone's like, shut up.
It's like, damn,
So
you guys,
yeah,
come on.
but no, that was really fun.
This is the last question.
Sure.
So, what are your 5 go-to fishing songs? I actually
Oh
am
dang.
all the all the all of the answers from the current guests are going into a playlist on Spotify
Really?
that I will link in. Yeah,
All right. Dang, 5 of them. Oh
5 of
geez.
them.
I feel like I always pick one and then shuffle it on, like, and just like hope good stuff comes on. But
That's
I
what I
feel
do too.
like I love country music. And it's
I
like
do
one of
too.
the bigger things. And this is kind of disconnected, but I used to play country music as
Oh,
like
that's pretty cool.
professionally. So I was like a contract musician for country artists, or artists in general. And so I had this weird thing where I loved country, and I'm from New York, so it makes no sense. Like there's only a few groups of people who really love country in New York, and you got to go really far to find them. And so I feel like number one has got to be I'm gonna look it up because I want to make
Okay,
sure I get the exact details right here. If you don't mind an assist.
that's fine. I
Let me
put in
grab. Go ahead.
what I put in 5. I put in 5 every week too. Mine go like all over the place. Like mine this week are "Good Lord Glory" by the Turnpike Troubadours,
Yeah.
"West LA Fadeaway" by
Okay.
Grateful Dead,
There you go.
"More Than a Feeling" by Boston,
Nice.
"Unwritten" by Natasha Bedingfield.
Oh yeah, dude. That's a you like if you hear it come on and like the boat's gonna be freaking rambling after that. It's
Yeah,
so
I'm
funny.
turning that up. And then "Busy
Yeah.
Woman" by my girl Sabrina Carpenter.
Yo, there you go. Honestly, because some of those like the new pop stuff, like honestly, the I feel like the last trip, there's probably 2 of them, like Espresso and what's the other one by
Oh, dude.
Chaperone?
Oh, Pink Pony Club.
Yeah,
Dude,
those
that's an
blasting.
everyday. That's an everyday jam for me.
Yeah, there you
Every
go.
day.
Yeah, those 2 definitely blasting. I'd say I'm Gonna Miss Her by Brad Paisley
Yep,
is
that one.
like that's a go-to. That's a go-to fishy song. And it's like this like kind of like a joke song between me and my wife, but like we both literally love the song, and so it's like so funny that we like scream it even, even though it's
Yeah,
like
I love that song.
she's gonna leave him if he fishes again.
I've
So
seen
no,
Brad Paisley in concert like 6 or 7 times.
oh, have you?
Yeah,
That's so
he's a
sick.
great show if you haven't seen him.
I haven't. I would say another one. Oh gosh, it's got to be. I've been really loving the new F1 Trillion album by Post Malone.
I do. I
Some
love
like
that song too. Or
some
I love
some
that album.
great. No, 100%. I think Finer Things, the one on there with Hank Williams Jr.,
Oh yeah.
great song. But yeah, I'd say like, dang it, I need one more, don't I? I
I
need one
think
more.
5.
Yeah,
Um,
I had those 2, so Espresso
there's.
and Pink Pony Club,
Oh yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I'm Gonna Miss Her, and then I feel like maybe oh wait, no, I've definitely got something on a playlist here. Which one? Which one? Which one? Oh, it's got. I think the last one's got to be. Um, which one is it? Sorry, I know that you can cut this out, so I'm just gonna quick look it up just so that I get the name right. So I'm gonna kick
Oh, it's all
myself if I
good.
say the wrong one.
Yeah. I don't cut
Sam.
out much.
Oh, you don't? Oh,
No, dude,
perfect.
because it's always been really good.
Sick. No, I think it's sounds like the radio by Zach Top. I've really been loving
That's a
Zach Top.
great song, dude.
Yeah.
Zach Top's the man. You ever listen to a dude named Colby Acuff?
Yes. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, he's the man too. I'm going to
Heck
see
yeah.
him next week.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I feel like when I'm in a boat, if I'm on a drift boat or like we're on our little vintage boat that we have here in New York, I feel like country's the first thing that's going on the
Oh yeah,
radio, and like whatever it
always.
ends up being, it's like country, and then like other songs trickle in because then everybody's just like we're chilling now.
Yeah.
It's like you get like 2 beers and people want to scream Pink Pony Club. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
dude. That's how
that's
I am.
yeah, exactly. You're like,
I'm
I
going
think I'm
out.
gonna take a minute to just soak this one.
I'm going out for St. Patty's Day drinking tomorrow, and one of
Right.
my buddies is like a huge like girly jams fan,
Dude,
and
you gotta have it, you know? Like you gotta have a
always,
few in your playlist because to be honest,
always.
those are the ones that like crush. Like a good Shania Twain song like that
Oh
rips on
yeah,
the oh man. Can't go
dude.
wrong.
So, oh yeah, man. But that's about all I got, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man, dude. That was
Dude,
probably gonna be one of the best episodes,
thanks for having me. I
dude.
freaking love talking about this stuff, so I really appreciate you bringing me on.
For sure, man, dude. I'll have to get you on again, man. For whenever you get back from your Mexico trip.
I know, I'd love it. We're headed down to Florida in April. So like April 1st we're
Okay.
going out to Florida and then we have the Mexico trip overlap with that. So I'm going to fly out of Florida and then we should be in Florida for a little bit, so we might do some tarpon stuff or something like that, but we might be able to catch up then.
Let me know. Let me know where are you going down there in Florida. Are you going back to Sanibel?
No, we're gonna be in Almirada,
Oh, that's way down. I was
so
gonna
like
say,
Keys. Yeah,
I might have a couple spots down there.
cool,
If you get a little wild hair to go and catch a peacock bass and some
dude. I want to catch a tarpon in the Cocopelli.
dude.
Like, I want to see what happens.
I'll text you. I got a few
Dude,
spots
heck yeah,
down there. I got a wild hair on New Year's Day one year and went down
yeah.
there around Homestead and stuff like that. I'll shoot you a text when we get off here.
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
But
and we should be down in your area too in a little bit, so I'll let you know if we're close.
yeah, dude, just let me know. I'll always be down to fish, drink a few beers or something like that.
Let's go. Those are the kind of
But
friends you need to have.
oh yeah. But I'll get out the like little snippets that I do probably here in a little bit, and then
Sure.
this will be up at 7:30, brother.
Tomorrow?
Tonight.
Oh, dang. Yeah, you're really throwing that thing up there. That's sick. All
Yeah,
right,
dude.
sweet.
I pre-do all like the descriptions and the what's it called, the thumbnails and all that. I pre-do the
Okay.
descriptions, and I
Sure.
put it up at 7:30.
Absolutely, dude. Heck yeah. That's the freaking grind right
But
there.
yeah, you get it out. You can get it out to your guys. I'll put up a snippet, just letting my people know, and then we'll be good
Yeah,
to go.
absolutely. Yeah,
But
let me know with any of the stories and all that sort of stuff and I can help support,
sounds good, brother.
if you will. Cool.
All right, I'm gonna stop this, and then I think.